Alright guys, so let's continue about arrays. So if we look into declarations for arrays, there are a couple of ways you can declare your array, right? We've learned two so far. One is that we just put a declare that it has 10 values, and then we put values inside it later, right? Again, as a reminder, it's a good idea to have it as a constant variable when you're defining the size, right? Also, right? This is because the idea of allocating memory to an array is actually done during during the program execute. It will allocate the memory space, so you cannot really allocate memory space during execution, right? So if you look into this, so some compilers actually do not allow this to happen because it would allow you to change the size of the array, and this is cannot be done, right? So other methods that we talk about is basically we put values inside it during declaration, or we put values without the size, and this would automatically state the size of the array. Or basically we can do this in a manner of putting values, right? If we supply lesser values, the other values would be initialized to 0, right? So this is kind of interesting because you don't really have to define all the values. You can define only initialize it with just 3 values, and basically it will fill element 0, element 1, and element 2, but the indexes for 3, 4, 3 and 4 is not filled up, and it will be initialized to 0, right? So basically we put string names, it will be able to handle strings instead of characters, right? Okay, so let's look about how actually do we use this into a function, right? Array elements are passed to a call function in the same manner as an individual scalar variable, right? So what this means is just that when you would use an array just as good when you're using it as a normal variable, right? When you're accessing an element in a particular array, for example, find maximum between grade at index 2 and grade at index 6, right? So and this is basically how it's being done in how arrays are basically passed to a function. The only difference here is that when you pass an array, right, the array is basically passed when you pass a full array, then it is passed by reference. So if you remember, we talk about pass by reference and pass by value, right? So if you pass a complete array to a function, you actually passing the whole array, right? Not the memory, not a copy of it, right? Not by value, right? So because particularly making copies of large array is really wasteful, so the compiler kind of pass the whole array to you. So be careful with this. Whatever changes in the array, basically whatever changes in the function, right, that is being worked on the array would actually make changes outside of the function as well, and this is quite different than just normal variables, right? So just keep in mind about that, right? So we can basically call a function by just using find max and pass the array, right? For example, here the array is called num. It's an array of integers, right? Or we can use find characters. We can pass a bunch of keys with 256 keys, or we could use it in a multiple parameters. For example, we pass num, we pass units, and we pass grades, right? In it, right? So now the question is, how do we then declare the prototype for the function, right? So when you declare prototype, you have to, this you have, it's a bit different because you have to specify that it is an array of a certain size, right? And the function as well. So these are all, how you would declare that particular function. So it has a return type, the function name, and the array data type with the size of the array, right? So value 5 or value 6, right? So these are some of the methods you would do in declaring your prototype, right? Now, so let's look at the function here. So we have the function prototype here, find max, integer max. So this actually allows for the compiler to know whenever we call num, we call a function, for example, find max num here. It will look into this and will find the function here, right? And what's being passed here is actually passed by name or passed by reference, and whatever you do here will actually uh, um, be affected. So in this case, we didn't change anything with uh, maximum value, or yeah, with the array itself, just a variable max here, and we return the variable max as an integer. Right? So so that is just one example. Here's a method of showing how things are basically in trying to find the maximum of the values, right? In this algorithm, finding a maximum is basically a for loop, right? And within that for loop, we keep on keeping the highest values. So we look through the numbers and we have a variable max, and if the first number is smaller, not the maximum value. If this is bigger, then the maximum value is updated, and so on and so on, right? So this is another example of a function, right? And take a look at this and how it works, right? Here we're still going through the function and basically calculating the test scores. Enter 5 test scores, so we basically enter 5 test scores into the array, and after that, we calculate the whole array, right? And basically find the average of it, right? So we could do it by calculating the sum, right? And getting values from the particular element, right? Okay, so this is fairly easy, and make sure you understand what's being, how to handle and access arrays, and how to declare function types that uses arrays, right? So this is it. We won't be doing the assignment here, but we're gonna jump into other concepts of arrays that are more complex, right? So I'll see you in a bit.